Welcome to my channel, The Three Mountains. My name is White Eagle. Today I bring you this interesting video because in true honesty I would like you to feel like Alice in Wonderland. Let's get started. The video is called The Enlightened Mind by Master Samael Aun Weor. He says, let us consider how to open the inner mind. How can we open it? We open it by knowing how to think psychologically. Gnosis teaches us techniques in order to learn how to think psychologically. The inner mind, just a moment, I repeat, works with the data granted by the superlative consciousness of the being. Then, thanks to that, the inner mind experiences the truth of the diverse phenomena of nature. For example, with the inner mind opened, we can talk about the law of karma, not from what others say or do not say, but from direct experience. Now my words, just a moment. If you follow the meditation practices in my videos, number 71, 79, 80, 81, etc., you will arrive at how to have a direct experience while in samadhi in the astral. Now, Master Samael continues. With the inner mind opened, we become sufficiently prepared in order to discuss reincarnation or the law of eternal return of all things or the law of transmigration of souls, etc. But again, I repeat, no longer based on what we read or what we heard from some authors, but by what we experience ourselves in a real, direct manner. That is obvious. Now let's continue. But if they did not open the inner mind yet, how can we make a demonstration like that? Obviously, this would be impossible, right? Now, this is important. How do we think psychologically? Imagination, inspiration, and intuition are the three obligatory steps of initiation. But if we were left bottled up exclusively within the physical, sensory functionalism of the intellectual device, the sensual mind, then in no way it is possible to climb the steps of imagination, inspiration, and intuition. Now we start with imagination. There are several types of imagination. We cannot deny it. The first type, we can denominate it as mechanical imagination or fantasy. Obviously, it is constituted by the scraps of memory. It is useless and even harmful. Now, intentional imagination. But indeed, there is another type of imagination. This is intentional imagination. In other words, cognizant imagination. Obviously, when this type of imagination is splendidly developed, it can give us access to the ultra of all things. Now, Master Samael gives an example. In the Hyperborean or pre-Lemurian epochs, the intellect was not in use, but imagination. At the time, the human being was innocent, and the marvelous spectacle of the cosmos was reflected upon their imagination as if in a crystalline lake. That was another type of humanity. Today, it is painful to see how many people have already lost the power of imagination. In other words, humanity has frightfully degenerated this precious faculty. It is possible to develop imagination, and its development would lead us beyond the sensual mind. This would teach us how to think psychologically. We already said, and we repeat, that only psychological thinking could open the doors of the inner mind. Thus, if we develop imagination, we can learn how to think psychologically. Now, let me scroll down, and I put this image as an example of intentional imagination. When an architect designs a house, he really needs to use intentional imagination. Now we continue. Comprehend, I am not stating that the intellect is useless. I am far from saying such an extremely imprecise affirmation. What I am doing is clarifying concepts, says the master. Every faculty is useful within its orbit, yet outside its orbit it is useless. Likewise are the faculties of the human being. They have their orbit. To want to bring sensory reasoning out of its orbit is absurd. Now, let's continue. Through experience, I have observed that those who remain bottled up within the intellect fail. Yes, those who want to verify with their intellect the truths that cannot be proven with the intellect fail. Symbolically speaking, they make the mistake of wanting to study astronomy with a microscope or trying to study bacteriology with a telescope. Let each leave each faculty in its place, in its orbit. Let us not get it out of its orbit. And now the is important because Master Samael gives a practice to develop imagination. He says, sit it on a comfortable chair with the body perfectly relaxed or lying down on the bed, but with a relaxed body and the head towards the north. We must imagine something, for example, the growth of a plant, a rose bush. Imagine that it has been carefully planted in black and fertile ground, and by continuing with this visionary, transcendental and transcendent process, we also imagine that we water it with pure waters of life. We visualize its growth process, how the stem finally emerges, how it marvelously unfolds, how thorns arise from within that stem, and finally various branches sprout from that stem. Imagine how those branches are also covered with leaves until finally a bud appears that delectably opens and becomes a rose. Thus, in that state of Manteia, as the initiates of Eleusis stated, speaking in Greek and maybe even the Orphic manner, we would say it is even convenient to feel by ourselves the delectable aroma rising from the red or white petals of that beautiful rose. This is an in-depth meditation about the process of birth and death of all things, if you also want to imagine the death of that rose plant. It is clear that this exercise, practiced assiduously, daily, eventually will grant us profound insight into what we could call the astral world. Just a moment. First of all, it is good to warn every candidate that any esoteric exercise, including this one, requires continuity of purpose from the disciple, because if we practice it every other day, we make a very serious mistake. Only by having real dedication in the esoteric work, it is possible the development of this precious faculty of imagination. Now, I give you this image, not a rose bush, but this is a fuchsia, and I tell you why. My words. I honestly tried sitting with my eyes closed and tried to imagine the rose plant, but I could not focus. So instead, I picked up my fuchsia plant from the garden and focused on it. I think this is called meditation on an object, or with an object. I tried, I tried this practice every day for a few times, like a few minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, to see if anything would happen. To help me focus, I also copy drawing the object in question, can help you keep your attention on the object. I think by now you know that I don't know how to draw, so don't worry about the final product. The point of copy drawing an object is just to help you keep your attention on the object and develop imagination. Yeah, so there you have it. And it worked. Yeah, so after a few days in the astral, I was walking along a wide path, entering what looked like a beautiful paradisiacal garden. And I saw my fuchsia plant, so I approached her very close. Once I had my face very close, it suddenly moved and the flower started talking. So I really got scared. I fell backwards on the floor. I lost my samadhi and returned to my physical body. So that's my experience in the astral with this exercise. But yes, I want you to try that because you will feel like Alice in Wonderland, yes, and the plants talking to you. Master Samael adds, when in meditation from within our imagination, something new, something different from the rose arises. It is a clear sign that we are progressing. It is indeed intriguing that in the next steps we can even converse with that elemental. This consciousness is certainly an elemental creature, a creature that has life and which is not perceptible to the five senses, not perceptible to the intellectual capacity, that is completely excluded from the mystical sensory field, but indeed perfectly perceptible to the translucent. Even is the fourth dimension of nature, says the Master. The earthly paradise is located in the fourth coordinate. The Elysian fields, the promised land where the rivers of pure water of life flow with milk and honey, is precisely the fourth dimension of our planet. Imagination will open for you the doors of the elemental paradises of nature. And it is true, it has worked for me. Now, I give you my general advice because I would like you to really try this meditation practice, but because I tried many times in different ways, I show you what worked for me, yes? So my general advice is, I have noticed it is easier to meditate on objects, images, topics which we feel emotionally connected to, rather than meditation on things where our emotional center is not involved at all. To me, it will be boring to sit and meditate on how a machine works, as an example, or to meditate on a dead plant. So try to find material that appeals to you on a personal level. So I pick up landscapes from different parts of the world for my meditation practices, where I would like to enter or discover them. Yes, with my heart, I honestly want to go there. Places that intrigue me on a personal level. And I fly inside those landscapes in my astral during the night. Okay, and I give you an example. This is a monastery. Well, there are many monasteries here. But look at this, it's so beautiful. So for me, it would be easy to sit and penetrate into this image in a meditation practice and feel myself that I am walking in the streets in there, and you start to feel the air, breathe, try to enter into the image. Yes, so this is Ladakh, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry, the monastery in India. Okay, up to here, I'll leave you with this image, and of course, I will continue with the next steps about opening the inner mind, inspiration and intuition in my next videos. Thanks for watching.